Just thinking, I'll show you some of my stuff, and on my website there's a lot of things, so I'll just guide you through very quickly. I'll show you a little my studio and what I do here in Peckham, not far from you. I built a little music studio in the backyard, so that's pretty cool. And right now I'm in the living room. And by the way, you guys should come for dinner. My wife is a chef, so she makes amazing food. And we could invite Linda and Byron and Alo and Alo. All right, well, let's get to it. What we're looking at here in the top is videos or links to different YouTube reels from what I made, and some parts are in my studio, documentary, animation, opera and musicals, and so forth. We come down to the first playlist, which has, there's no vocals on these 3 playlists, only the 4th one. So the first one has the romantic songs, and let's just go from the top here. Loving Never Forgetting, which is a Chinese television show with over 22 million views on YouTube, and a bit of traditional Asian Chinese music, but with more like the Hollywood orchestra. I'll link the songs down here as well, or actually, you know what, you can just go to that one. So that will be the first song, called Loving Never Forgetting, as the television show is called. I can't pronounce the Mandarin title. The next one is A Bridge of Spring, which is the Bridgeton, also very romantic. And I actually did a trailer for the Bridgeton together with some students, so it was an assignment. And so I was teaching them, orchestration and kind of composition. They know something already, different use of VST instruments and the difference between a MIDI markup, and then prepare that for a live orchestra session. Blah, blah, blah. So that's that one. The next one, November's Whisper, is a solo violin concert. There. And that goes on with different things. The last one, Proia's Elegance, is the choreographer Alexander Proia that I did some music for New York Theater Ballet. So that was a tango that we did 20 years ago. And I also kept some of the older pieces of music to kind of show the consistency in my composition, meaning that I do a lot. And although I feel, of course, that I'm getting better over time with arrangement, understanding of the instruments, and producing music, as we spoke about, from wearing 1 hat to wearing 10 hats, this is kind of the result of that. All right, the next one, which is Netflix series, especially some of these documentaries, including The Real Housewives. The first one, Crazy and Dangerous, is quite interesting piece of music. It's a very modern classical piece of music, actually. But it illustrates their cat fights and, the way they are really conniving with each other. So it works. It's very whimsical, actually, which is funny. So it could work for someone else completely, too. Then something called Daniel's Despair, and the reason was because that was also for some of these Real Housewives show. Also whimsical, and what they asked for was actually to kind of imitate a bit of the Desperate Housewives, so that, Wisteria Lane type of thing. The Desert's Mirage, which is a documentary about some plants, some poisonous cactus in the desert, So that gives that mysterious bit of Aladdin could come flying by or something like that. That's just my imagination. The Avec Eric, which is the chef show. And he's from Paris, or at least we start in Paris, so I took that very typical Django jazz guitar, happy feeling, bit like Ratatouille, if you've seen that, the Disney movie. Yes. And I come from jazz, so this was not too difficult for me. Adopted is a BBC show about some kids that was adopted from China, some sad stories. And so we come over to the real animation here, which first is a song that I did for this feature animation, and they just take her around, so it's kind of a little sensorium of what goes on in the movie as a demo promo for the entire movie, with only using this song that I wrote. Don't try to walk so fast. You can watch the whole thing with your kid. He's too little, but when he gets older. This animation where the donkey is farting here, we have the first one is called Nessie, and that is from a television show called Paranormality. So, you know, the paranormal things that interferes in this. Again, a bit romantic, but more adventurous. So a little more on the Harry Potter side like this. And this is about that Loch Ness monster, which, as you can see, she's quite cute, but we don't know that. And there's another monster luring that are not so cute, so also from Paranormality and scary. You can see a bigger picture. So yeah, he's another very nice guy. So it's very like, this has this dystopian Batman universe. A little bit of the Jaws psycho effect that you're kind of waiting for something bad to happen. Time travel is from a quite interesting project that I did, which is I'm also gonna at least send you the demo reel that incorporates that.
But I feel like we hit the jackpot when we found Johannes. I was so amazed that Johannes was instantly into this story that takes place in modern-day Manhattan and the ancient mythical Shangri-La kingdom of Gao. And he wrote this.
Fabulous 3, which is some rock and roll here, but with orchestra. That's actually also made 100 years ago. For a Danish production of, instead of the Fantastic Four, then it's called the Fabulous 3. There are 3 superheroes. Tale of 10 Wolves, I love that piece of music. It's very telling, so it's very like a long story that type of builds up here. And has a bit of James Bond, bit of, I can't, you know, like Dances with Wolves. I guess I maybe had some ideas on that one. So it's a bit long, but you can just, you know, click some nice highlights in there as well. So it's a very, a saga, you can say, you know. I don't even remember, there was a show once called the Colorado Saga. It's one of my favorite shows I grew up with. I'm a little older than you, so maybe you're too. Something more from Denmark, Norway, the one I showed you before with the princess and the fairies. Jensen and Jensen is quite funny. It's like a little funky, jazzy thing with, ended up being a pretty not very well made 3D animated thing. I guess maybe they ran out of money, but it's a grown-up story, so it's more like a Simpsons type of thing. But I think the Finnish animation didn't look too good, to be honest. But the funky soundtrack with like a kind of Las Vegas gambling attitude. Tigger, which is from the famous movie Tigger, which is a theme of that Harry Gregson Williams wrote. So I just arranged it, and that this is only a MIDI arrangement, so that's no real live orchestra, and it's 100 years old as well. To the last part here, which is the musical, which is all vocal recordings. The first one is musical that goes into a bit of opera. So she starts singing in the musical sense, and then she shows her ability to, you know, sing opera, which is, I think, is quite interesting. This type of crossover. And the next one, Don't Try to Walk So Fast, that was also in the video, sung by Krista from Los Angeles. It's a very pop song made for that movie. Prepare for War, interesting. Bit of my Irish heart, or my love for Irish folk music and this type of voice, which has, fun enough, some similarities to R&B with all the small ornaments on the melodies, but in a different setting, much more lonely in a sense, and a bit sad maybe. But I also love the instruments of the bagpipes and the tin whistles, and you know. So yeah, that's something that's close to my heart. StarBrow is a song from a book, and this book was, I think, was supposed to make it into a movie, but it didn't yet, at least. But I did the music for the book, so you can actually buy the book and the CD together, which was a bit fun. And then I got this Danish, quite famous in Denmark, singer to sing it. He became famous with one international hit song as well. His name is Brian Rice. And the author's mother, funny enough, wrote the lyrics for the song. So it was a family affair. Andrew's Mitten is my friend, Andrew Litton, who is a conductor. So this is just a silly song that I made for him, a very musical. Bima is interesting. It's an Indonesian superhero television show, which is a bit maybe a rip-off, or hope that they could rip off Pokemon. So I made something that sounds a bit 80s, 90s. But the funny thing about this song is that this was actually the guy who wrote the lyrics. He sent me the lyrics in Bahasa, so Indonesian language. And I was told not to just translate, but just get inspired from that song and then write an English song that had the same, we're gonna stand up and fight, and you know, do you know your right choices, and you know, so stuff like that. So I took his concept and wrote this English song. So it's very inspired by that, deliberately, and very 90s, 80s, 90s, 2000 rock and roll-ish fun. Unbeatable Battle is a little opera thing with a guy who wants to kill his mistress. Alors is an interesting concept as well, because I had to do some French pre-war songs, and because I lived in Paris. So I had, first of all, I had to learn a lot of French to sing myself, so I could sing, so I could send it to the singers that then had to sing it. So that was it. And I actually composed all that in Thailand, so we were in Koh Samui when I composed all that. And I just was like, you know, laid awake at night listening to old pre-war French music. It didn't really match the climate. One of my favorite songs, which I wrote as a child who don't really want to grow up, if that means to become so serious and all that. So this is another close to my heart. I think very musical and beautiful voice this kid has. You can check that out. The next one, Hymn. This is a Viking song which is written in Norse language that doesn't exist anymore. So that was also very interesting to go into all these interpretations to actually have something that makes sense and have different people listening to it that's expert in history, so they could say, okay, this sounds, you know, so you don't end up with some type of direct translated that, you know, in the end doesn't make any sense, and then took over Netflix. Catch Only the Fish is from a story that I wrote myself, and it's actually coming out as an audiobook. So audiobook with music and sound effects and the voiceover that reads this story about it's a spiritual story about a kid that goes on a journey. But I did it then quite opera-ish, opera musical,